Nico Daws signed a new contract, and the Devils reunited with some familiar hockey faces and added them to their hockey operations staff. And we also have to say goodbye to an old friend of this show. There's a lot to break down on today's episode of Locked On Devils. Buckle up, everybody.
You're Locked On Devils, your daily podcast on the New Jersey Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi, this is Bryce Salvador, and you're Locked On Devils with Trey Matthews.
Scores! Oh, Stevens stepped up, nailed him. Brodor's got the puck. What a shot. The Devils win the Stanley Cup.
Alrighty now, what is up, New Jersey? Welcome back to the Locked On Devils podcast here on Locked On Network. I'm your host, college hockey play announcer, Devils writer for Pucks and Pitchforks, and also part-time credential media member, Trey Matthews. I hope you enjoyed yesterday's mailbag discussion. I had a great time answering all of your questions, and I definitely want to do more of that in the future, especially since we're at a slow point in the off season. What's on the agenda for today's episode? Well, for 2/3 of today's show, I am going to catch up on some news that I missed while I was on vacation. The Devils made some hockey operations hirings, including Andy Green, former captain for New Jersey. They also re-signed Nico Daws. And while Nico Daws never conducted an exit interview with the Devils, I still want to break down his season because with Jacob Markstrom added to this roster, this gives Nico Daws some more time to marinate just a tad bit longer. So that way, once Jacob Markstrom's time comes to an end, Nico Daws is ready to thrust back into a much bigger role, or maybe it'll happen after this season because Jake Allen only has 1 year remaining on his deal, but I'll talk more about that in the second segment. And then to close out today's episode, it's a bit of a sad subject, but we're going to bid adieu to an old friend, Ryan Novozinksy of NJ.com. And I sort of want to speak from the heart and talk about what Ryan Novozinksy has meant to me and also the entire Devils discourse. He decided to take up a new opportunity with the New York Giants. And like I said, that's to close out the third segment because it puts a lot of things I talked about a couple days ago into perspective because like I told you guys, I don't know how much longer I will cover the Devils because I too want to work my way up in this industry and I want to become a play-by-play announcer in the NHL someday, but I got to start off in minor league hockey. But that's to close out today's episode. Let's talk about some of these hockey operations hirings made by the Devils a few days ago on August 1st while I was on vacation. All right, the first hiring they made was Chuck Fletcher. He joins the organization as a senior advisor to the president of hockey operations and general manager, which is Tom Fitzgerald. He will advise Fitzgerald on hockey operations matters, including player personnel, scouting, and contracts. Fletcher served as general manager for the Flyers from December 2018 to March 2023 and spent 9 seasons, 2009 to 2018, as general manager of the Minnesota Wild, where he led the club to 6 straight playoff appearances. Fletcher and Fitzgerald previously worked together in Pittsburgh for 3 seasons, 2006 to 2009. So they were a part of that Stanley Cup run that the Penguins had against the Red Wings for a couple seasons. All right. I know a lot of people are not really that fond of Fletcher. I saw the responses on social media, and I get it. He's made some questionable decisions, especially when he was with the Flyers. But the thing is that he's joining the Devils in an advisor role. I don't think he's going to have as much power as people think he's going to have. I don't think it's that big of a deal. In fact, the site in which I write at, Pucks and Pitchforks, my boss, Nick Villano, put out on social media and is saying something similar to what I'm saying, which is it's an advisor role. I would just say it's not a big a deal as people are making it out to be, but I get the concern. All right, moving on. Let's talk about something a little more uplifting because everyone loves Andy Green, right? He was officially added to the staff as advisor hockey operations. Green previously lent his time to the organization over the past 2 years as his schedule permitted, including attending Devils practices, working with the coaching staff, and scouting minor league college games and Devils prospects. He will now serve as an advisor to Fitzgerald and the entire hockey operations group, which will include working with the scouting and player personnel departments, coaching staff, and pro and amateur scouting staffs, while serving as a resource from his experience in the game. Green, who is now 41, retired after a 16-year NHL career on October 12, 2022, after signing a one-day contract with New Jersey, where he spent 14 years and was the 11th captain in club history. Based on my judgment and my personal opinion, I think it's safe to say that people are quite fond of Andy Green. As you guys know, I have ties in Michigan. He's originally from Trenton, Michigan, and I always have a soft spot in my heart for fellow Michiganders. He was on that Devils team that went to the Stanley Cup final in 2012. And while finishing off his career with the Islanders, I guess that's a bit of an eyesore for some people. He did see himself suit up in a decent amount of playoff games. And I'm glad that he did sign that one-day contract with New Jersey so he could officially retire as a Devil. As you guys know, recurring guest Joseph Stanislaw, a.k.a. Jersey Joe, he is quite high on his prospects, and I'm sure he also likes this move with Andy Green, a former longtime Devils player, scouting the future NHL stars of tomorrow. Manny Legacy, he was named head amateur goaltending scout and development coach, working with executive vice president Martin Brodeur. Quite fitting, if you ask me. He will work with all goaltenders in the Devils system and serve in a scouting capacity for draft-eligible prospects. Legacy 51 joins New Jersey after spending 5 seasons with the Columbus Blue Jackets as the team's goaltending coach from 2018 to 2023. He appeared in 365 career NHL games and was a Stanley Cup champion with the Detroit Red Wings back in 2002. All right, interesting hire once again. And fun fact for you guys, Ryan Fitzgerald, who is the son of Tom Fitzgerald, was named a U.S. college scout, and he is added to the club's scouting staff. Just wanted to share that interesting factoid, but there you go. There's the hockey operations move made by the Devils, and there's my opinion on Fletcher now being a part of the Devils organization and Green reuniting with the Devils. The legacy of the Detroit Red Wings and the New Jersey Devils winning Stanley Cups way back when. Legacy was a part of a team that won the Stanley Cup in 2002, and that was when the Devils were in their prime, in their heyday, because that was before they won their third and most recent Stanley Cup in 2003. However, that rivalry has since died out tremendously, and 1995 was a lifetime ago because I wasn't even born then. I know, scold me on social media for not being born around that time. How dare me? But anyway, there you go. There's the hockey operations moves made by the Devils. All right, we're going to talk about Nico Daws momentarily, but before we continue, let me tell you guys about Indeed. If you need a hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors. According to Indeed data and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast, ditch the busy work, use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates much faster. And Indeed doesn't just help you hire faster. 93% of employers agree. Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites, according to a recent Indeed survey. I've actually used Indeed before to book myself some play-by-play gigs, and listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/lockedon. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support my show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. All right. We talked about Fletcher. We talked about Legacy, and we talked about Green. But let's talk about a player still playing, which is Nico Daws. Here's the PR report. on Nico Daws and his new contract. The Devils recently announced that they had re-signed goaltender Nico Daws to a 2-year contract with an average annual value of $812,500. Daws has played parts of the last 2 seasons with the Devils, splitting time between the NHL and AHL levels with the Utica Comets, where he completed his 3rd season. The 6'4", 205 netminder successfully underwent hip surgery during the summer of 2023. I talked about that in a recent episode. Following his rehab, returned to play with Utica on December 8th, 2023. Yeah, the recovery took a little longer than I had initially reported. And wow, December 8th, 2023. That's interesting. Daws played most of the 2023-2024 season in the NHL and earned a 9-11-0 record in 21 games with the Devils. And I want to talk about Nico Daws' future because I've seen a few people talk about it on social media. One of the bright spots of Jacob Markstrom being signed for this season and also next season is that it gives Nico Daws some more time to grow his overall game. One of the complaints that I had for Nico Daws was that I think the Devils are rushing him a little too much because, as we all know, the 2023-2024 season, it's safe to say that it was pretty hectic, especially when we got to mid-season. Once we got to January, February, March, the wheels were spinning for New Jersey, but they weren't really going anywhere. They were stagnant. They were mediocre. The only thing consistent with this Devils team was their inconsistency, and they were looking for some sort of answer. And they thought they found it in Nico Daws. And Nico Daws, to his credit, he put up some strong performances. Let's highlight one of those strong performances. He led New Jersey to its first outdoor game win in a 6-3 victory against the Philadelphia Flyers as a part of the Stadium Series at MetLife Stadium. Daws set a new NHL record, making 45 saves on 48 shots for the most saves by a goaltender in an NHL outdoor game. The 48 shots against were also the most all-time an NHL netminder faced in an outdoor game. That does speak volume to Daws' strong performance in between the pipes, but it also highlights the lackadaisical defense that was in front of him, but that's a subject for another time. Nico Daws went on a tear at one point, and he was putting up, once again, very good performances for the Devils. Here are some more stats for you. In terms of wins, he was second on the team with 9. In front of him was Vitek Vanacek, but Vanacek appeared in more games than him. Shots against, second on the team, 568. Saves, second on the team as well, 508. Save percentage, 894%, second last on the team. But like I said, I think that more speaks volume to the amount of shots that he had to face and potentially save. Goals against average, 3.15, third on the team. He didn't record a shutout. He had 10 quality starts, second on the team. Goals saved above average, minus 5.1, second last on the team. In dead last was Vitek Vanacek with a goal save above average rating of minus 11.7. Yikes. Adjusted goals against average, 3.25, third on the team. And goalie point shares, 2.7, second on the team. And now let's look at his AHL stats. He had a record of 2-6-2, a goals against average of 2.89, and a save percentage of 890. And did I mention, this is a rhetorical question, did I mention that he was recovering from hip surgery? So the fact that he put up those solid numbers at the NHL level and also the AHL level speaks volume as to the potential that he has. And the reason why I don't want the Devils to rush him is because it'll be a similar situation to Mackenzie Blackwood or Corey Schneider, where you basically use them start after start after start, and they're more prone to injuries, and their young careers, they're derailed at an early point. And you don't want that. I don't want the Devils to make the same mistake. And that's what was worrying me when the Devils were going to Nico Daws for like 9 straight games at one point. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, but there were a lot of games in which Nico Daws was starting in a row. And it was a growing concern for me because they were relying on Nico Daws to try to get the team out the gutter. My thing is, like, he needs more time to develop, and he can't rush into this. I think he's going to be a good goalie at the NHL level, but if the Devils have learned anything from Mackenzie Blackwood or Coy Schneider, these things cannot be rushed. You got to take your time, which is why I'm glad that they got a veteran goalie in Jacob Markstrom, someone who has a respectable track history, someone who led the NHL in shutouts just a few seasons ago. He can sort of take the burden off of Nico Daws and also Jake Allen to an extent. He could take the burden off both their shoulders and try to lend a helping hand in that sort of capacity. Nico Daws was pretty good in net. He was solid. And I think the Devils did overwork him at one point, but it still doesn't take away from the fact that he went above the call of duty, especially since he was recovering from hip surgery. And there's this old saying in sports, minor surgery only applies if it's not happening to you. There's no such thing as a minor surgery, especially a hip surgery in which you kind of need your hip to be somewhat mobile, especially if you want to be a goalie. And the fact that he put up those good numbers, impressive. But like I said, I like that the Devils re-signed him, but take your time with them, especially now that you have 2 veteran goalies in front of them, Jacob Markstrom and Jake Allen. Let me know what you guys think about the development of Nico Daws and where do you think his game can go from here. All right, before we bid adieu to a friend of the show, let me tell you guys about GameTime. I've actually used the GameTime app before to purchase myself some NBA and MLB tickets. Last minute deal. Save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. Save even more with the exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or event. Save even more when you choose a section. Let GameTime choose the seats. All in pricing, toggling this feature shows the total upfront with no surprise fees at checkout. Seat views, get a good view of your seat in the app before you buy. The lowest price guarantee or GameTime will credit you 110% of the difference. GameTime ticket coverage, your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in ticketing industry. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download GameTime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Okay, it's time to say goodbye to an old friend, someone who's appeared on my show in the past, and someone who I have nothing but positive things to say. Ryan Novozinksy of NJ.com has accepted a new position with NJ.com, so he's not leaving his website. He is going to be covering the New York Giants this upcoming season. And let me just tell you guys, that is a promotion. Congratulations, Novo, on the new gig. Wish you the best. And let me just say, for your sake, I hope the New York Giants at some point reach the Super Bowl so that way you could cover that big event. I don't know when that's going to happen, if I'm being completely honest. I don't really follow the Giants, but I know enough that they're ways away from that. But digressing a little bit, getting back to Ryan Novozinksy, I appreciate the work that Novo has done for NJ.com when he joined the beat a few years ago to cover the Devils. I remember when Corey Masisak was covering the Devils for The Athletic. I remember when Robert Inkin Jr. was covering the Devils for North Jersey. I still see him at development camp every now and again. And you still had Mike Moriel. Christy Flannery a few years ago was still with the Hockey Writers. She was credentialed for a few games, and then she got a permanent credential and then swapped over to the Hockey News. Dan Rice, he was also in that similar position, originally with the Hockey Writers, but now he's with Pucks and Pitchforks alongside me. I've seen so many great things happen with the people that cover the New Jersey Devils. And I'm glad to be somewhat a part of that because, as you guys know, I'm not at the Prudential Center often, but when I'm in the area, when I'm back on the East Coast, I always do ask for a credential. Or if the Devils ever came out west, I would always make the trip to California, Seattle. Obviously, when the Coyotes were still in Arizona, asked for credentials to that. Vegas, always had a great time. Novo helped boost my confidence a little bit because I remember when it was announced that Novo was going to be covering the Devils for NJ.com, people got excited because it felt like that was missing in a sense to some of the Devils discourse because Corey Masisak left the Devils branch of the Athletic and transitioned over to the San Jose Sharks. And Novo actually reached out to me first while I was on vacation in Paris. And he said, if you ever need a guest star, I'm here for you. And we came together to do a good episode later on in the summer. And I said, Novo, you're already a legend amongst the Devils discourse. And he said, Trey, you're a legend too, because he said he listened to my show. He said it was the perfect length. Usually my episodes range anywhere from 20 to 25 minutes. He said he would listen to it on his way to the Prudential Center. And one time when my show was still sponsored by Built Bar, he said he bought a Built Bar just because he listened to the ad read in my show. He also said that, to quote Jersey Joe, the Devils need more Sasquatches in the playoffs. And it was always so surreal. People view him as sort of the Adrian Wojnarowski of the Devils, which is he always broke the news. He always had insight. He had great articles, and some of his articles I would incorporate on this show to do some silly season discussions or talk about some things that were happening around the Devils organization. And once I did get my credential a little later in 2022, Novo, along with everyone else, was very welcoming, very accepting. And I didn't really do a long post on social media compared to other people because I wanted to save it for today's episode. I can just say I really appreciate all the work that Ryan Novozinksy has done for NJ.com. And I just wanted to give him his roses because, once again, he did build up my confidence a little bit, saying he listened to my show. And I also want to talk about Erica Walker while I'm on the subject. I remember talking to Erica Walker a few times, not many, but a few times at the Prudential Center. And I asked her, like, hey, would you ever want to come on my show? And she said, yes. She said she's seen my things before, and she said I did great work. And if Novo, Erica, also Dano, he said he was familiar with my work when I first introduced myself to him. If those guys have taught me anything, it's that stupid cliche in media. You have no idea who sees or reads your work. And I can never see my listeners. I can never see my viewers, whether an episode gets a few hundred downloads or 50 views on YouTube. I don't know who those viewers or those listeners are. It can vary. Sometimes my episodes can get 1,000 views and 1,000 downloads. And sometimes, like while we're in the slow point in summer, it goes down a little bit. But you never know. That's my thing. And to Erica Walker, to Ryan Novozinksy, thank you for everything you've done covering the Devils. And I think I speak for a lot of the Devils discourse. We greatly appreciated your service at the Prudential Center, and you will be missed. And like I told you guys a couple episodes ago, not everything lasts forever. And this puts a new perspective for me because, like I told you guys, I don't know how much time I have left when it comes to covering the Devils, especially since I want to be a play-by-play announcer in the NHL someday. And I'm going to have to start off in minor league hockey. And that's a lot of work. And if I got a job being the play-by-play announcer for like the Utica Comets or the Adirondack Thunder, then maybe I could still, cover the Devils. But if I got a job with a different team under a different affiliation, then I don't know if I could still continue to do the show. But for the time being, I'm here. I enjoy doing the show 100%. And this segment had no notes. It had no structured outline. I just wanted to speak from the heart and just talk about, change. That's my thing. So, like I said, thank you to Ryan Novozinksy. Thank you to Erica Walker for everything you did for the Devils. And I'm sure that torch is still going to be bright and blazing for the next person in line. And I'm looking forward to it. So let me know what you guys think. What do you think of the development of Nico Daws? What did you think of some of the hockey operations hirings that the Devils did a few days ago? And share your favorite moment of Ryan Novozinksy, whether it was on social media or on the show. I don't know. Like, just show Novo some positivity as he transitions from the Devils to the Giants. And like I said, I hope the Giants make the Super Bowl in the near future, so that way Novo could cover the big game. But that might take some time. But we'll see what happens. And I love watching Erica Walker on MLB Network. Yeah, that's how I'm going to close out today's episode. Continue to stay safe. Have a wonderful day, New Jersey. Go Devils. I'll catch you guys in the next episode. Thanks for listening once again.